Venezuela Crisis 2026. What happened? The headlines that shake the entire world, the capture of a sitting president, a powerful nation stepping directly into another country's affairs, and a country already suffering now, standing at a historic crossroads. This is not a movie plot. This is Venezuela in 2026. What happened in Venezuela has changed the political landscape of Latin America and raised serious global questions about power, sovereignty, and the future of millions of people. Stay with this video till the end, because what happens next could redefine Venezuela for decades. Venezuela was once one of the richest countries in South America, blessed with the world's largest proven oil reserves. But over the last 2 decades, political instability, corruption, economic mismanagement, and international sanctions slowly pushed the country into crisis. Hyperinflation destroyed savings, basic goods disappeared from shelves, hospitals collapsed, and millions of Venezuelans were forced to flee their homeland in search of survival. At the center of this long crisis stood President Nicolas Maduro, whose rule became increasingly authoritarian and controversial. In early January 2026, the situation took a dramatic and unprecedented turn. United States forces carried out a covert military operation inside Venezuela and captured President Nicolas Maduro. This move shocked the international community because it is extremely rare for a foreign power to directly arrest a sitting head of state. Maduro was reportedly transported to the United States to face charges related to narcotics trafficking and terrorism. Supporters of the operation called it long overdue justice, while critics labeled it a violation of international law and national sovereignty. Inside Venezuela, the reaction was mixed and intense. The sudden removal of Maduro created confusion, fear, and uncertainty. The Venezuelan military quickly backed Vice President Delcy Rodriguez as interim leadership, urging citizens to remain calm and continue daily life. However, calm was difficult to maintain. Protests erupted in several cities, with some people celebrating the end of Maduro's rule, while others feared foreign occupation and further chaos. For ordinary Venezuelans, the biggest concern was simple: whether life would become better or even harder. Opposition leaders, many of whom had been silenced or forced into exile for years, spoke out strongly after Maduro's capture. Some described the moment as the collapse of a dictatorship, while others warned that removing one leader does not automatically fix a broken system. They demanded free and fair elections, the release of political prisoners, and international monitoring to ensure a genuine democratic transition. For the first time in years, many Venezuelans felt a cautious sense of hope mixed with deep anxiety. The international response was just as divided. Several Latin American nations expressed concern over the U.S. military action, calling for dialogue instead of force. Countries like Brazil, Mexico, and Chile urged respect for international law and warned that military interventions often create long-term instability. Meanwhile, Venezuela's allies, including Cuba, strongly condemned the operation, calling it an act of aggression and state terrorism. The United Nations faced pressure to respond, but consensus remained difficult. One of the most critical aspects of this crisis is oil. Venezuela's economy depends heavily on oil exports, and years of sanctions and mismanagement had already crippled production. After Maduro's capture, uncertainty around control of oil fields and export agreements caused tension in global energy markets. Investors, governments, and oil companies closely watched Venezuela, knowing that its future leadership could reshape global oil supply and prices. For Venezuela, restoring its oil industry is essential for economic recovery, but it will require massive investment, transparency, and political stability. Beyond politics and oil lies the humanitarian reality. Even before these events, Venezuelans were struggling with extreme inflation, unemployment, food shortages, and limited access to healthcare. Children were among the most affected, with malnutrition and interrupted education becoming widespread. Humanitarian organizations warned that sudden political changes could either open doors for international aid or worsen conditions if instability continues. For millions of families, the crisis is not about ideology, it is about survival. The big question now is, what comes next for Venezuela? Will interim leadership lead to democratic elections, or will power simply shift from one group to another? Will the United States withdraw after its objectives, or remain deeply involved in Venezuela's future? Can the country rebuild its economy, regain trust, and convince millions of displaced citizens to return home? These questions remain unanswered, and the path forward is uncertain. History shows that moments like this can either mark the beginning of recovery or the start of prolonged instability. Venezuela stands at a turning point. The fall of Nicolas Maduro may close one chapter, but the next chapter will depend on leadership, international cooperation, and the resilience of the Venezuelan people. The world is watching closely because what happens in Venezuela will not stay confined within its borders. If you want to stay updated on global events explained clearly and honestly, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below on what you think will happen next in Venezuela. Your opinion matters, and we'll see you in the next video.